Here is Edge correspondent Stuart Harrison's report from the UK Halls of Power.
All fellow Edge listeners, this is Edge correspondent Stuart Harrison, aka Watchman X, bringing you what I hope you will find to be an exciting revelation regarding what is going on right now around the seats of power in England. I very recently journeyed to London on, let's call it, a sightseeing mission. What you are all going to hear in this talk is information that the one and only Creator once brought out into the light for everyone to see. I did not know before I left home that this subject matter would become a huge part of the reason for my journey. However, when I came across it, I knew that he had led me to a certain location for a reason. Before I can reveal the exact details, I must share a brief and very basic recap in some ancient stuff of legend. For many of you, this will be a mere refresher. The legend I am going to talk to you about is in regard to that of the sacred white bull, or cow. In the story of Gilgamesh, reference is made to Humbaba, who guards the throne of Urnini, who is in the form of Ishtar. Also, Humbaba is referenced to be a raging bull that guards the sacred forest. The primary tree in that sacred forest represents the consort of that bull god Humbaba. Humbaba is the first physical beast god incarnation, which got dismembered and cast into the sea. His mother, who in Egyptian legend is Hathor, gathered all the parts together again, only to be missing just one piece, the phallus. The bull child is thus reborn from the sea as Dionysus. So even though the physical form died, he is symbolically reborn, and his spirit lives on in the second incarnation of the bull child. Only this time his mother Hathor, or Ishtar, has replaced the missing phallus with a golden one. This is the origin of all phallic worship. Also the origin of all obelisks, including the witch's hat, and the church steeples of Rome instituted Christendom. This is the pagan version of the historical account of Shem, the son of Noah, chopping the evil Tammuz into 14 pieces and throwing the parts into the river Nile. Tammuz was the son of Nimrod and Semiramis of Babylon. Tammuz was also the most evil man that had ever lived, and that was because he was Satan, the great serpent incarnate in the flesh. Many of you will already know that I have compiled a chapter in the book The Spirit of Jezebel, The Mystery of Iniquity and the Strong Delusion, called The Christmas and Easter Festivals. What are they really about? And so I won't beat about the bush, or sacred forest, here. The Christmas tree is a phallic symbol and represents the phallus of the great serpent that seduced and had sexual intercourse with Adam's helpmeet before she was even called Eve. The offspring of that fateful union was the man-beast Cain. Cain was the fraternal twin of Abel, the offspring between Adam and Eve. Due to Sherry Schreiner's diligent study and prayers for the truth in all things, we now know that the Satanic Trinity was never Nimrod, Semiramis and Tammuz of Babylon, as the Reverend Alexander Hislop suggested in his famous book The Two Babylons. In fact, it has always been the great serpent, i.e. Satan, Eve and Cain. After having 7 more sons and 3 daughters, Eve left Adam and became Satan's consort. This is how the great serpent fulfilled his promise to her that she would become a goddess. This then goes back to that primary tree in the sacred forest that also in many legends represents the consort of that bull god Humbaba. Upon researching this, I came across a website called Hermetic.com, and under the subtitle Osiris and the Legend of Pasiphae, there is information regarding the Book of Thoth, written by the infamous Satanist Aleister Crowley. He wrote regarding this legend. The legend is set in ancient Crete, where Poseidon sends King Minos a beautiful white bull up from the sea to offer as a sacrifice back to himself. King Minos is so struck with the beauty of this bull that he keeps it, sacrificing one of his own herd in its place. Poseidon, in his anger, made the bull go on a rampage throughout Crete, causing a great amount of destruction. This is the origin of the prelude to the bullfights in the arenas today. King Minos' actions anger and offend Poseidon, who punishes Minos by causing his wife Pasiphae to fall madly in love with the white bull. With the help of Daedalus, a wooden cow covered with real hide was constructed for Pasiphae, and presumably by hanging onto it, she is said to have had intercourse with the bull and conceived the monstrous Minotaur. In this way, the bull child called Dionysus is reborn, and a child of the underworld. The man-beast and the mistress of the beasts is supposed to represent a transitional life form between the seed, or tree, and the god in human form. There is little mention of Pasiphae in Crowley's works, but what commentary and analysis we can find is very enlightening. In the Paris working, Crowley establishes the general concept behind the legend as he interprets it. This is the great idea of magicians in all times, to obtain a messiah by some adaptation of the sexual process. Now I'd like to point out here that in the Gospel of Philip from the Nag Hammadi library, Yahushua Messiah states, and I quote, "Indeed, every act of sexual intercourse which has occurred between those unlike one another is adultery." Crowley goes on with, "The root idea is that any form of procreation other than normal is likely to produce results of a magical character. Either the father of the child should be a symbol of the sun, or the mother a symbol of the moon. In Crete, where the labyrinth was, they worshipped the sacred white bull god Apis. The virginity of 12 women was sacrificed each spring in the hope that one would bear a Minotaur, an offspring of magical character. The 12 virgins represent the signs of the zodiac, and it was done in the spring because that's the time for Taurus the bull." Anyway, so where is all this going? Anyone educated in the basics of these things knows that it all boils down to disguised satanic ritual. All of it is done in remembrance, praise and honour of the Satanic Trinity. Anyone who calls themselves pagan will not agree, of course. It's called selective listening or selective study, and all that does is limit our knowledge of the truth, much like Christians who refuse to read anything but their 66 books of the Bible. A blind faith is a useless faith. Now remember that the sacred white bull in all the legends came up from the sea. This is also familiar in Irish legend. Crowley further writes of Egyptian legends and how the beast and a scarlet woman are the same as in the legend of Pasiphae. They are identified with the sun and the moon in the Book of Law, or the Book of the Law. One excerpt from that book is, "Now ye shall know that the chosen priest and apostle of infinite space is the prince priest, the beast, and in his woman, called the scarlet woman, all power is given. They shall gather my children into their fold, they shall bring the glory of the stars into the hearts of men." Now we are reaching crunch point. As I made my way around the Houses of Parliament, I came across the gateway to a mostly hidden garden. The gate sign said something like, "Entrance of the Black Rod." The Black Rod, as many may know, is the sovereign's representative to the government. I continued on walking the length of the hidden garden, and around to the rear where the only thing separating the garden from the Docklands water was a thick stone wall. So the garden finishes up very close to the water. As I gazed through the garden's heavy metal bars that were lined with CCTV cameras, I could not believe what I was seeing. and so I took a picture with my mobile phone. Now, with this very brief background concerning this legend, we can now decipher